Good morning. Welcome to Northwest Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I am Diana Kohler. My pronouns are she and her, the worship associate for this morning's service. We welcome our congregation's delegates to the General Assembly to the pulpit this morning. Kathy Henry, Sheria Robinson-Lane, and Caroline Landrum will share their reflections from the GA. If you are a visitor online and would like to Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form appearing in the chat box. If you are a visitor here, you can fill out the visitor sign-in in the atrium. Please greet your neighbors with a wave from wherever you are. Then, before we begin the prelude, let's all take a deep breath and settle in to a time of worship.
Sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. You used to rock me in the cradle of your arms. You said you'd hold me till the pains of life were gone. You said you'd comfort me in times like these, and now I need you, and now I need you. And you are gone. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Since you've gone and left me, there's been so little beauty, but I know I saw it clearly in your eyes. Now the world outside is such a cold and bitter place. Here inside I have few things that will console. And when I try to hear your voice above the storms of life, then I remember that I was told. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I think on the things that made me feel so wonderful when I was young. I think on the things that made me laugh, made me dance, made me sing. I think on the things that made me grow into a being full of pride. Think on these things, for they are true. And I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I thought that you were gone, but now I know you're with me. You are the voice that whispers what I need to hear. I know a please, a thank you, and a smile will take me far. I know that I am you, and you are me, and we are one. I know that who I am is numbered in each grain of sand. I know that I've been blessed again and blessed again and again and again. sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes.
We light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, knowing this morning that many other Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world are doing the same. This isn't just a place of worship. It isn't just a fellowship of like minds. This isn't just a Sunday morning filled with spirit and topped off with coffee and cookies. This is our church, our congregation, where we are building beloved community, where we are opening ourselves to each other, where we trust and love, rise and fall together. This is where we feel safe. This is where we know we are welcomed. This is where we belong. For this gift and so many others, we light our chalice.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
The opening words this morning are by Reverend Gretchen Haley. We gather to draw a wider circle. In a world that feeds on moral outrage, we are here to cultivate moral courage. In a time that prizes picking sides, we gather to draw a wider circle. And in a culture that teaches us to get for what we give, and to ask, what's in it for me? We come to practice generosity and to remember we are all in this together in the midst of life's bitterness. We choose to sing, to give thanks, to launch together, and to be keepers of beauty, to offer a place of belonging for all who come in gladness and in pain, to resist the push to the next moment and the next to slow down, to breathe more deeply, to feel a part of something greater. For this hour and in this space, let us be the change we wish to see come. Let us worship together. Let us rise as we are in spirit and ability to sing the opening hymn, Open the Window by Elise Witt, inspired by the Georgia C. Allen spiritual video from First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay, the whole community needs to get involved with this. We need singers and we need percussionists. You can be both, but at least choose one, will you? It goes like this. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Try with me. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Mama and Papa are fighting like snakes. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Baby is crying like her heart will break. Open the window. Neighbors lock their doors, build fences so high. Can't see what's to discover on the other side. Here we go, percussionists. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly. Open the window, let the dove fly. Borders round countries and borders round the sky. The only borders that close you are the borders round your mind. Some people have minds, some people have none. But what's the use of money if your heart's gone numb? Let's do it again. Here we go. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. This big old world is in a great mess. Open the window, find peace and rest. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Last time. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in.
One purpose of a religious community is to encourage all who gather together to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support both this congregation and our shared plate recipient, which is the Southfield Emergency Needs Fund this month. It has the goal of helping Southfield residents overcome personal hurdles and achieve a satisfying quality of life. We support this fund 6 months out of the year.
Again, many of you may be aware that our bylaws for our Unitarian Universalist Association are being updated, which happens every several years. And we're in the process. One of the things that it affects many of us is that what we've known as our 7 principles are changing in how we word them. So the principles aren't changing, just how they're worded is changing to be maybe more reflective of where we are now. And so our current reading is a draft of Article 2, Section C 2.2, which is our values and covenant. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. We covenant to cherish Earth and all beings by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and we would work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant collectively to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities.
When we're longing for love, it looks like justice. When we're longing for love, it looks like justice. We can live for love. Whoa, get committed to it. Love looks like justice. Love looks like justice. We can live for love. Love looks like justice. Love looks like justice. We can live for love. When we're searching for love, it sounds like when we're searching is. When we're searching for love, it sounds like when we're searching is. We can't say we're searching for love. Whoa. When we're searching for it, love sounds like oneness. Love sounds like oneness. We can sing the love. We can sing the. We can sing the. We can sing the love. When we search, we can sing the love. We can sing the. We can sing the. We can sing the. We can sing the. Yes, we will sing. It's not far. It's not. It's not hard. It's not hard. Let it where you are. Where you are. It's not far. It's not. It's not hard. It's not. for love. We can live for love. Yeah, we can live for love. Love looks like justice. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Love looks like justice. Love looks like justice.
That song was inspired by the wisdom of Dr. Cornel West, who said that justice is what love looks like in public. And I especially want to thank and dedicate this song to the members of my Patreon community, whose kindness and generosity has helped sustain me through the lockdown into this moment, and as I continue to create. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for sharing your treasure with me and helping me to share what I have to share in the world. I appreciate you. I love you. And I'll see you soon.
Good morning. I started to write this reflection, and honestly, it turned into musings on Zoom, so I hope you will be patient with me. This was the first General Assembly of the UUA I attended, but I'll confess I'm a serial convention goer. I've been to the Episcopal Church's Triennial General Convention 3 times, the Diocese of California's Diocesan Convention at least a dozen times, the League of Women Voters State and National Convention, and probably others I've blissfully forgotten. I was a delegate to the League of Women Voters National Convention in June of 2020. I had my Airbnb reserved in DC, and then of course, pandemic. The League quickly converted the entire event to online. And let's face it, people who are willing to go to these multi-day conventions are people who are willing to go to meetings. So with the pandemic shutdown starting in March, by the time you got to June, everyone attending the national convention had been to many online meetings, even if they had rarely, if ever, attended an online meeting prior to 2020. How many folks here had never been on Zoom prior to 2020? It was a brave new world for a lot of folks. Now it is expected that even these very large national events involving both public access and restricted voting be held as hybrid online and in-person events. I don't think any of us could have envisioned that even 5 years ago. There are plenty of advantages to offering these events in this way. My attendance this year is a good example. My last chemo treatment was on June 9th, and General Assembly started the evening of June 21st. There is no way I could have gone as a delegate if I had not been able to attend online. In terms of inclusion of those who cannot travel, hybrid conventions are a great thing. Many will say that a hybrid convention allows those who cannot financially afford to attend the ability to do so. I can envision congregations claiming poverty, real or imagined, and not supporting in-person attendance. The full experience of GA would only be available to those who could afford it. I wonder what we would lose in such a scenario. There is a big difference between holding regular church business meetings online and holding a national convention online. Church meetings are small affairs, and we all know each other beyond the context of a monthly meeting. In a national convention situation, that is simply not the case, and online attendance definitely puts you at a disadvantage. Meeting platforms offer chat and discussion groups and all sorts of opportunities for those attending online to connect with one another. But these are basically Facebook posts without the familiarity, and we all know how that can go, especially if you are discussing something controversial, and typically the whole point of a convention is to discuss things that are controversial. Article 2, the draft rewrite of what Sheria just read, was the key topic at GA. Article 2 currently contains our 7 principles and 6 sources, and the rewrite intends to embed the spirit of the 8th principle and also to bring our sources more up to date. Article 2, the current 7 principles, was not adopted in 1785 or in 1885. They were adopted in 1985. They were never intended to be the 10 commandments set in stone. As UUs, we believe that traditions change and bend as more information is revealed to us through experience, science, and discovery of new facts about old events. This does not, however, negate the power of the current 7 principles in people's lives. That power was reflected to all of us at GA when a newer, younger member commented against the Article 2 changes in a heartfelt way. They noted their own traumatic religious history and the mooring the 7 principles had given them. Their UU church was the spiritual home they desperately needed, a found family of love in contrast to the biological family that had rejected them. They were upset that people at the convention, who were overwhelmingly in favor of continuing with the Article 2 rewrite, were literally cheering what they felt was something to be mourned. And because they were a newer member, GA was the first they had heard of this proposal to rewrite the 7 principles they loved. Not only was this a great reminder that even though the majority may agree and may see something as progress to be celebrated, others see loss and sadness. But here's the positive: that individual was attending GA in person. I imagine those around them were able to talk to them and support them through their grieving, while also providing more context for the proposed Article 2 changes. If they had been attending online by themselves behind a computer in their living room, I don't think I would have such a hope. Maybe someone would have tried to send a supportive chat message, and maybe they would have seen it. But I think they would have left GA in a far more negative way than I hope they left because they had been able to attend in person.
We are building a new way. Together, we are building a new way. Together, we are building a new way. Getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. Together, we are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We cries out, cry. We are building a new way. Together, we are building a new way. Together, we are building a new way. Getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. Together, we are building a new way. Getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. Together, we are building a new way. Together, we are building a new way.
Well, it was also my first opportunity to attend GA, and JoJo and I made it a girls' trip, which she loved, and so that may be our new tradition, although I hope more of you will be able to join us next year when the entire convention will actually be virtual, and we'll be in person 2 years from then. The things that I noted at the convention, one was the bookstore. I think sometimes we forget that at uua.org there's a really wonderful bookstore that's available that has some of our materials we forget about, like our Unitarian Universalist Pocket Guide, which provides information about our tenets, some of our history. There's great books. I found this one, like Upcycle Your Congregation. Very fitting, which talks about a lot of the ways that we can rethink congregations, that many congregations are struggling with the same challenges around membership and changing times and how to reconnect with our communities. One of the most delightful things that we found while we were at GA was Drum, which is our diverse, revolutionary Unitarian Universalist minority members or multicultural ministries. And there is some information in the back. There's only about 20 flyers, so take a picture with your phone, unless you really need to take one. But there are virtual services that take place and gatherings. And there was a really wonderful annual meeting, which was, Jo is a very picky eater, but for the first time she ate everything because they had all of the foods and things that she enjoyed. And so it was a really great experience to get to meet other folks from around the country that somehow I missed that this was available. The session that I wanted to talk briefly about that I really found enjoyable was called Disrupting Church. And one of the things that it talked about in this particular section was really thinking about what we need in order to create a space for church. And it was really just a couple of things. One, which was the will to be there, and then two, for people to show up. And so if you've got those two things, then you can have church. And so there was really a lot of reflection around this idea that, there were spaces where church was happening and there wasn't a building, and church was happening outside, and inviting people in and working with the community and creating more community spaces. And so really deconstructing the things that make church work, like how decisions are made, how we communicate with one another, How do we know what folks need and what they want? And really rethinking all of this. And one of the things that really stood out to me was this idea that joy really has to be intentional and a regular part of both our services as well as our meetings and the way that we connect with one another, so that this is something that brings us in regularly. And the other thing that I've been thinking a lot more about is this idea of moving from a consumer to a citizen, that we're interdependent and not dependent. And so many of us come into like these spaces expecting to receive and to take, and we want to take stuff away and go on our ways, but that's not how our values really work, really. We come to be more interdependent with one another. We have to stop looking to be served and stop engaging in passive ways. And this requires others to do the work for us, without us willing to put in some of the work for ourselves. And so it was really just a lot of interesting introspection for myself and thinking about like how I connect. There was a reminder for us to slow down our processes, to eliminate expectations of what will happen and start thinking about possibilities, to be more open to flexibility, and to really to start to lead more with curiosity. Instead of considering and being stuck on the way that things used to be, really being more thoughtful about what are the possibilities and like asking more about like why. So even in the instance when this particular session was brought up, it was introduced in talking about a church in New York that had a large building in Manhattan. This is a very well-resourced congregation that sold their physical church, but one of the things that they were very accustomed to was their Christmas Eve service that everybody loved, but now that they don't have a building, they couldn't do it. And there was a lot of grief around this, and even though it was cold in New York, they gathered together outside and did it. And they didn't think people would show up because it was cold and there wasn't a building. But not only did folks from church trickle in, but people started opening their windows that were in the community around there. And they had like a really large gathering of folks, both there on the block as well as in the community, that participated in this tradition that they had, that they essentially took to the streets. And so it was just a great reminder about our power to create the space that we want to have.
I'm getting used to, but it's difficult, let me tell you. I haven't quite learned the art of walking with a cane and getting up and down. My name is, as written, Caroline Landrum. I am a soon-to-be, not too soon, but close to be 80-year-old woman with the gray hair that comes along with it. I am wearing white long pants with a blue and white flowered shirt, and I am walking with a cane, as I mentioned. This is the sort of introduction we got from each person that spoke at the microphone at GA. It was startling, I admit, when I first saw it happen. I thought, what is this, you know? Well, it grew on me, and I realized the significance of it and the meaningfulness of it, and I was very glad it took place, and I hope they'll continue it. There are so many disabled people in our world, from those with a cane temporarily, I hope, to those who cannot see, and lots of others. And this is spoken to those who can't see who they're listening to. And I think it's a very nice sort of way to blend that in. When I was asked to go to GA, I was ecstatic. I was not happy for the reason I was asked because of Ken's backing out of it at the last minute, and then, of course, followed by his death very soon afterwards. So it was a bit of a shocking reason and not a happy one for me. But I was ecstatic on all the other reasons because I love GA and was very excited to go. And then when it came to say, oh, I got to reflect on this, My gosh, there's so much to reflect on. How am I going to pare that down? Because you see, I've been to GA a lot. My first GA, I went as a nanny to my then very baby little granddaughter. That granddaughter is now going into her second year of college, so it's been a lot of years of attending GA in various methods, most of which were going because I needed to be there to be the babysitter. But it gave me the opportunity to see a lot of what goes on at GA before I actually ever went as a delegate. I've now been, I think, 3 times as a delegate, but I lose track. Anyway, I know that I have been to a delegate in person. I have worked at GA behind the scenes because that's the way you can make money to attend, or at least to pay for part of your way, which is kind of cool. And since I always had my room paid for me because I was in the room with my daughter Cindy and my granddaughter Katie, then I could get just about the whole thing paid for if I worked a little bit. And then there's the way of going that we experienced this year and the last year and other years of attending via Zoom and the internet in various ways, which is an interesting way to do it. And I loved aspects of that. It's so nice to be able to sit at home and listen to a lecture or figure out what's going on behind the scenes. It's just lovely. But on the other hand, you miss out on all those interactions that take place between sessions with all the lovely people that are there and getting to know people. And because I was there often in the role of mother and grandmother, I got brought into a lot of conversations that I might not have otherwise. So that part to me was just really great. I got to meet a lot of wonderful folks that I otherwise would not have met and grew my own network of GA folks behind the scenes, which was cool. Trying to follow notes that I've written to myself in various places. GA is GA, but there's a GA and then there's the other GA. And that means that GA can be experienced in a number of ways, as I've hinted at. This year was online for me. I missed the catalog. Now, you could buy the catalog, which is about yay thick and expensive, or you could print out pieces, but the whole thing is voluminous. So you really don't want to waste all the paper in your household on printing the whole catalog. So I lived without a catalog this year, and you can do that, but it's not as fun because the catalog gives you a lot more of what's going on in a quick and easy thumb-through method. There are timing issues. Oh, I wanted to attend that session, but I can't because I've got this going on in my life, and vice versa, that I would drop things going on in my life to be able to be online every now and then. And then there's the certification process, which for me, as Ben knows, was wild and wicked. It took me almost all of GA just to get certified to vote, but I wanted to be able to vote. There were some crucial issues on the ballots, the various ballots, and that's another thing. There were different ballots, and they were on different days, and you got to figure out when you're going to vote. So that took some time and consideration. And figuring out what the issues were and what they meant behind the scene and what they meant for the future. I'm, again, very fortunate that I have my daughter who is a minister and involved and keeps me up to date on things all year long, so I knew a lot of what was coming up, but I got a few surprises here and there also. As far as the resolution of the I can't say it, the Second Amendment there, I'll put it that way, was concerned. It's not resolved, in case you didn't pick that up, and so it's yet to be resolved. But a lot of work was done, and a lot came out of all that work. There's a nice flower picture that I wish I had put on my phone or something like that so that I could have brought it up. But all of the values are shown as petals on the flower, and the center of the flower is love. And I just love that image. So if you see that around, that's a very nice image. The major differences for me at this GA were several that you only picked up by just watching and visiting and seeing what was going on. The one that struck me most importantly was the rainbow of participants that was very, very visible this year. It's been there, but it's been harder to see. And I loved seeing that rainbow in more vivid colors this year. And I'm speaking, of course, of the variety of ethnic groups, of racial groups, of various groups that people belong to. Delightful. Now, you know from listening to me several times, and some of you have listened to me more than you want to, but I'm from the South. Yes, my parents were Northern, so I'm a really mixed up, screwed up kid with all these values from the North that I was raised with, but all these values from the South that I took in while living there. The good ones, hopefully, and the bad ones, hopefully not. But one of the things I loved at GA this year was the infusion of gospel music. You might not have realized it was there, you might not have thought about it, but it was there. It was very clearly there, and I love it. I just love it. Grew up with the gospel music, so it's great for me to hear our words and our values and our thoughts interpreted through gospel music, and I mean gospel in the good sense. The second value I've already spoken to, or second difference in this GA, was the attention to the needs of the variously enabled people. People are enabled in various ways, and we call some of them disabled, but actually we're all disabled and we're all enabled, and you have to just kind of look for the one and the other. But that was very visible also, and helped to color that rainbow and stood out, and I was so glad also for that picture of GA because it shows how varied we really are. And of course, then the other major difference is that we now can both go and attend sessions, and we can stay at home and witness them through our computer screen. We can have a mixture, and I've done it that way too several times. I love going. If I get a chance, I go, but I do enjoy being at home too, and particularly now my husband is even more disabled than I am, and so I can spend that time helping him and being with him, which is a nice mixture. But I missed being with my granddaughter because I don't get to see her much anymore, so that was a sorrow. Another thing I think has not been mentioned, I've been trying to watch for what has been said already. I don't think anybody mentioned the outcome of the elections. Yeah, okay. This was a big year of electing a brand new president. Now, I happen to be kind of a hang-on friend of Susan Frederick Gray, our outgoing president, and I helped with her campaign a lot. So I just loved her being president. I just thought she was absolutely terrific. Others of you may not have thought so, but that was my viewpoint. So it was hard to see her go. But I had gotten to know our incoming president, Sophia Betancourt, a little tiny bit, in that Cindy, my daughter, has spoken about her several times, and I've grown to know that she's a person to be very well respected also. You may or may not know that she's the first woman of color to be our president. She's also openly queer, which is unusual for our Unitarian upper echelon of people who rule us, so to speak. So we can look forward to that combination of her talents along with her many other talents. She's a theologian, an ethicist, and a minister, so she has those to bring to the table also. And she has served as an interim president of the UUA, so she has that experience. So I think it's going to be a great year, a great 4 years to come along. I think I've reflected enough. I think we should move on, but if you want to ask questions, I'll be around for a little while. And then I think next that I have to introduce another hymn, the Fire of Commitment. See, it's the book numbers are not written in this, so I have to refer back to it. It'll be coming up on the screen. Okay, it's hymn number 1028. It is in your program, fortunately. The Fire of Commitment, music by Jason Shelton, and words by Mary Catherine Mourn, and the video is from the Foothills Unitarian Church in Fort Collins. So I'm not going to stay up here as I didn't last time because I have a horrible voice and I don't know how to lead music. So I'll step aside and you can sing as you're willing and able and stand as you're willing and able. Thank you.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving.
We have a few announcements this morning. First, you are invited to join us for the coffee hour in the multi-purpose room. Is today really a potluck? Okay. Mistake there. I thought, ooh, I missed that memo. Our annual picnic, which is part potluck, part barbecue, part play, all friendship and fun, will take place on Sunday, August 13th after the service. It will be at Beverly Park in Beverly Road in Beverly Hills. And you should all have received information about our first collaborative service with First Church in Detroit in an email that came through Ben. It will take place at First Church on Cass Avenue near Wayne State on Sunday, August 20th at 10:30. You can participate in person at First Church and stay for coffee hour there. There will be RE activities at both locations. You can watch from this room and attend coffee hour here at Northwest, or you can watch it online and stay for breakout rooms. And now we have a postlude. The storm is passing over.
Take courage, my soul, and let us journey on. Though the night I am far from home, thanks be to God, the morning light, the storm is passing over. Storm is passing over. Oh, the storm is passing over. Come on, join us. Have courage. Take courage, my soul. And let us journey on. And I am far. Thanks be to God. passing over.
The storm is passing over.
The storm.
The storm.
The storm is passing over.
The storm is passing over.
The storm.
The storm.
The storm is passing over.